This is WWE superstar Drew McIntyre, and you're listening to the WWE Podcast.
The champ is
the one that everybody wants, me.
It's going to WrestleMania. Claymore!
Austin 316 says I just whipped your ass. This is my iron. You're going to acknowledge me.
Welcome, everybody, to the Week in Review. It is Sunday. It is the 20th day of October. The year is 2024. I hope everybody's doing well as we close out another week in wrestling and begin another. And we've got a lot to talk about tonight as Roman Reigns and his OG bloodline continue to struggle to come together. But that's the story that should be told. You know, like what other story would you want there to be? Everybody just instantly reconciles with no explanation? Not the story I want. So it's continuing to play out as it should play out. I don't need any twists or turns in this. Jey will come around. I still am targeting Crown Jewel for Jey to reunite with with his former teammates and family members in Jimmy and Roman, and of course, maybe Paul Heyman will be in tow at the event at Crown Jewel, but maybe perhaps in a more dramatic sense, you have Jey come back at Crown Jewel to help Roman and Jimmy, completing the trio, and that's when you have. I was going to say Paul Heyman be introduced the following SmackDown, but if Sami Zayn is the final puzzle piece, perhaps Paul Heyman is the cherry on top, where everybody's back together, and then Roman says it feels like something's missing, right? You have Sami, you have Jey, you have Jimmy, and he's like saying, you know, it feels like something's missing. It feels like something missing. I can't quite put my finger on it. Here comes Paul Heyman. Paul Heyman, if they introduce it that way, where Paul Heyman is the final puzzle piece before Survivor Series, I think Paul Heyman could get the biggest pop of his entire career. You know, the wise man returns as the absolute final piece. That's, of course, non-competing. You have Sami Zayn being the final competing piece. So that's just my fantasy booking moving forward. But, of course, we've got a PLE to get through before we get there. And I'll talk about SmackDown a little bit. I'll talk about the controversy that is. And I'll talk about this on the second half of the show for those of you that aren't interested. I won't subject it to you. But it is making the rounds all over the internet, and I don't talk about politics on the show to the best of my ability. I really don't. But when it comes to wrestling, and I don't go to it, it comes to me, I have to talk about it. And I think you guys know what I'm talking about. We had, over the last week or so, Dave Bautista and The Undertaker in two opposing camps politically. And it is just absolutely blowing the wrestling community up, the internet up. X has been an extremely toxic place to be, but we're going to talk about that, and we're going to talk about it in the most objective way as possible. If you want to hear my very bias-leaning podcast, you can do that, and that's called The War on Truth if you want to check out that show. By the way, that show is available everywhere podcasts are, and we are the logo with the laptop and the American flag. Want to say that up front. And we'll get to that again in the second half of the show. But the last thing I'll say, if you haven't checked out our interview that our Wrestle Magic team did with Chavo Guerrero, you're missing out. I really recommend you do it. They were able to speak with him for an hour. They did an excellent job, and I enjoyed the interview, enjoyed the stories that Chavo provided. Really just a really fun interview. So if you haven't heard the Chavo Guerrero interview that our Wrestle Magic team did, check it out. It's a few episodes back from this particular episode. So let's get into it, guys. Let's get into this week. And I want to start with Kevin Owens, because I feel like he's lost in the sauce. He turned heel. We don't expect him to capture the championship. He is sitting in his vehicle, banned from SmackDown this week, and saying he's contemplating if this company really believes in him, or that the company has any faith in him moving forward. and it was recorded from a cell phone video, or maybe even worse. I mean, the quality looked like it was an iPhone 3G. I mean, it was pretty bad, but it was Kevin Owens in his vehicle and kind of down in the dumps, yet he's a heel. So I don't know how we're supposed to feel about this. It's weird. He acknowledges that he is the guy that turns on his friends and all that. So he knows what all the fans are saying. He knows what the announcers are saying. He's acknowledging it. But at the same time, okay, if you are, then what are you supposed to be right now? Are we supposed to hate you? I don't have a clear path on what Kevin Owens is supposed to be right now, and I feel weird about it. And he's claiming Randy Orton turned on him when obviously it seemed to be the other way around. And but I don't know. And even what this results in, isn't going to be a championship victory for him. It's not going to result in him carrying the Undisputed Championship around. It's another temporary visit to the main event. That's what this is. Whenever they get to it with Cody and KO, which I would imagine at this point they're going to just do on a SmackDown and get that over with. This side story with Kevin Owens. And I say side story, I hate to say it, but it is, because what's coming up is bigger than Kevin Owens. It's The Rock, right? We all know The Rock is looming. We all know Randy Orton is looming. And with those two guys coming back to the forefront and Randy turning at some point, kind of makes sense that you have Kevin Owens be this 1 to 2 month detour that just bridges you from now until the bigger opponents. So enjoy, those of you that are massive Kevin Owens fans, enjoy this little, once again, temporary main event visit for Kevin Owens, who just can't seem to buy property on the land of main event. He seems to just rent. He seems to rent and not buy, and he can't ever seem to time his career out right. And it seemed genuine. I will give that interview, or that promo, whatever he did in his vehicle, some credibility there, meaning I feel like there were some real elements. I mean, you don't think he's thought at times that this company doesn't value who he is and what he can bring to the table? Of course he has. I think any talent really thinks that. Oftentimes they'll overvalue their own stock, but that's kind of the lay of the land, right? I mean, egos are plentiful in wrestling, like many other forms of entertainment. But I think when you have Kevin Owens at the forefront here, who continues to just dodge in and out of the main event, he's probably thinking in the back of his mind all the time, what the hell? What the hell? What the hell? Can I not catch a break? I'm always the guy that's the bridesmaid, never the bride. Outside of winning the Universal Championship for a little while, that's kind of the extent of his top title runs. So he's been here for 10 years, as he said. The Kevin Owens deal, maybe it turns into something bigger. Maybe I'm completely wrong. And I wouldn't be angry if I was, because I think Kevin Owens deserves a top run with a championship. But the stars aren't aligning here. The idea of Cody dropping the belt to KO just is, it doesn't really, the way WWE books things and the way that they stamped their nod of approval on Cody and made him literally the face of the new era. They said that, I think, almost verbatim. They're not going to have Cody drop the belt to Kevin. Sorry. So it'll be interesting to see how far this goes, how long this goes with Cody and Kevin. But I wanted to talk about that. And also, Cody Rhodes coming out, and he is inviting Gunther to SmackDown next week. I like this. The reason is for simple respect of the brand rules. I'm cool with an invitation. You want to have an invitation be thrown out to anyone coming to Raw as long as it's approved by management? Bring it on. I think that makes much more sense than having people come on the show and then retroactively either don't get an explanation or, they're affiliated with somebody who's having a match with somebody else on the opposing brand. It gets messy. So now Cody, of course, is going to ask Gunther next week what he wants to talk about, because he's still trying to make fetch a thing. It's not a thing. He's forcing it to happen, but the crowd continues to be with Cody here. Am I sensing any kind of decline? No, but I also will say I think he's flatlined. And I don't mean flatlined as in dead, right? I mean as in plateau. How about that's a better word? Plateaued. I think Cody Rhodes for months has plateaued. And his match here with Gunther is one that, fine, from a wrestling quality perspective, many of us are looking forward to. But when it comes to the story, it's a little contrived. And it's contrived because we're told by management, nope, this champion needs to fight this champion. And I had some discussions with people on X, among others. I mean, it's a, like I said, it's a pretty bad place to be right now, where there was an account that asked, do you miss the Survivor Series of brand versus brand? And I essentially said no, that I don't need a contrived, color-coded brand rivalry where everyone has sudden blind loyalty to the brand that they were drafted to. I mean, I don't need it. And I said also nothing's on the line. And so people are coming back and saying, well, what exactly is on the line in War Games? Right? Which is on the surface, gotcha question. It's like, well, no, here's what's on the line when it comes to War Games. Okay, you have pride. You have actual personal issues going on. And there isn't a brand-wide forcing of loyalty, right? This may be a small matchup that, sure, happens every time that Survivor Series now has happened over the last couple of years, where there's a War Games match. And it does happen. It's on the schedule, so they have to put two teams together. And it's usually two teams that make sense, that have something going on. It's not just these randos put together. So there is that it actually at least half organically makes sense, that the team members that are there make sense. But again, it's not everyone is color-coded to their brand. If you don't have loyalty to red or blue, then you're out. It makes no sense. That's a much more broad brush to paint, and a much more difficult match to a brand rivalry to get behind. And also, here's the other thing when it comes to people saying, well, nothing else is on the line with these other matches. Okay, when it comes to championships, no, usually there's not, right? But here's the one thing I will say is, personal issues are on the line. Personal issues are, you can have a number one contendership come out of it. But with brand loyalty, how many times did you see anybody come out of this with any kind of consequences? I mean, remember SmackDown getting swept by Raw? And Shane McMahon, I think, was the commissioner at the time. Nothing happened at all. Absolutely nothing. You also, again, these issues are, fans actually are invested in whatever these big ticket item issues are. No fan watching WWE is going to say, damn it, I'm a Raw guy. I don't want to watch these SmackDown jerks. No. Fans are stuck in a weird place when it came to that stuff. No one really had any vested interest in this outside of the GMs at the time, or the commissioners at the time. Whoever it was in that role are the only ones who seem to give a damn about it, because fans are just going to go, you have somebody on Raw saying, yeah, Raw, and the fans are going to cheer, yay, Raw is going to, hopefully Raw wins. And it's like, you're only saying that because you're on the show, but if SmackDown were in town, you would have said the same thing. So anyway, I have a big personal issue with the whole brand versus brand nonsense. But anyway, moving on to this week here, guys. So Kevin Owens, as I said, we'll see where it goes. It's kind of in a weird spot right now. I don't know the length of this. I don't know the end game of it. I don't even know if they know, but I'm willing to just definitely play it out because Kevin Owens is so damn talented. So, all right, what else happened on this week? I'll touch on SmackDown a little bit more, I should say. We had the Bloodline come out and Sikoa telling the crowd they better get used to this because they're the present and the future. He said they are the Bloodline and he is the tribal chief. Solo said that. He is. And Solo said that the beatdowns on Roman Reigns will continue unless he comes to the ring by the end of the night and acknowledges him. Jey Uso comes out and crowd went crazy. Jey entered the ring and said, "What's up, little brother? It's been a minute." And Jey said he wasn't there to fight. He said at the end of the day, he still cares about Sikoa because he's his little brother. Jey said Reigns and Jimmy were not at the building yet. So he came out to speak to them, or speak to Us. Okay. Jey told Sikoa to think about what he's doing to the family and the bloodline. And Jey said no one has bigger issues with Roman than he does, but he left the family and became the IC champ. And Solo then stopped him and said, you finished wasting my time? And he said, I'm your tribal chief. And an OTC chant broke out. Jey said that if Solo was trying to unite the bloodline, then why did he have to bring Fatu, Loa, and Tonga? Jey said there was a reason he stayed away from them, and Jey told Fatu that he'd knock his ass out if he kept staring at him. The crowd was into that. Solo put up his arm to keep Fatu calm, and Jey said yeet, and that things would be different the next time he sees Solo. So we're all, speculating what that could mean. I don't know if that means inside of a War Games setting or at Crown Jewel, one of the two. So, good stuff here. All right. The Street Profits, which, wait a minute. By the way, I have to call it out because I need to be consistent. Jey Uso appearing on SmackDown violates the brand rule. Can we just keep a tally of this? Somebody needs to keep a tally of this. The violations that are unexplained or inexcused, we need to keep tally of this. I'm not letting it go. I love Jey Uso. I like what he's doing right now. IC champ, feels right. About time he has a singles run. But are you kidding me? Why is he here? Can we at least be told he was invited? He was invited by Nick Aldis? Something? I don't know. I don't know. Some of you don't even care. Don't even notice or care. I do. It makes the experience more fun because when you see a crossover, it should be shocking. It allows you to create two different worlds and then imagine when those two worlds collide about the different combinations of matchups that could happen. And instead, they just go and desensitize you to constant crossover with no explanation. And I'm surprised Triple H, clearly it's not one of his priorities. I'm surprised. All right, so we get the Street Profits versus DIY versus Pretty Deadly. They're back for a triple threat qualifier for a shot at the tag team titles. The Street Profits were the only team to receive a televised entrance here, and Pretty Deadly then, they obviously didn't win this match, but they did have a few good moments, ultimately with DIY winning. I think that DIY was the right choice here. The reason is Pretty Deadly has been very much on our screens, off our screens, on our screens, off our screens, off our screens, off our screens, on our screens, off our screens. Like, there's no consistency there. The character development has been very shallow. They aren't a team you really need to take seriously. They're not a bad team. I think they have some good chemistry. They've come up with some funny names like Pete Dunne. They've had some pretty funny vignettes. I think there's more there, but you're not going to tell me that they're any kind of threat for a tag team championship run just yet. Not never, just not now. You also have on the other side Street Profits that are essentially just running on fumes at this point. They're running off of past glory. There's not much left for them to do. It feels very much New Day-ish, where it's kind of like, okay, guys, can we wrap it up here? Either turn heel, do something drastic, or split. They are in desperate need of doing something with that team, splitting them, changing them. I don't know what. But you talk about a team out of the entire roster that needs a shake. This is the team. And it's a shame because they're two very talented guys. Even Angelo Dawkins, who has been overshadowed by Montez Ford, and rightfully so. Montez Ford is freakishly athletic. So he's been in the shadow of Montez. Figuratively, obviously, kind of a funny play on words, given that Montez Ford is much shorter than Angelo. But this team desperately needs something. They need a new coat of paint in the worst way. So they're not going to win. And DIY has been the more consistent team. Much more consistent team. You know who and what they are. They're really good wrestlers that cut average promos, and anybody you put with them is going to have a good match. So I think it makes sense. Okay. We then have Roman and Jimmy appear here and get out of their, what was it, their Chevy SUV, I think. We then had Lash Legend with Chikara Jackson versus Piper Niven, and she was with Chelsea Green. Of course, we had the insufferable women's tag team champions of Bianca Belair and Jade Cargill sitting front row. And a couple minutes in, Legend hoisted up Niven on her back, and Niven slipped off and headbutted her. Green eventually climbed on the apron and dropped off when Legend threw a punch. Jackson took out Green by running her into a barricade, and Niven splashed Legend from behind, and Niven then went for a second rope splash that Legend avoided. Legend then hooked Niven on her back and slammed her down face first and got the victory. And after the match, we had Belair with her jaw dropped in reaction to Legend's power, and Legend and Jackson were barking back and forth with Belair and Cargill. So, I mean, whatever. Here's what I do like. I could go on another Jade Cargill, Bianca Belair rant. I have done it enough, and I'll save you and spare you tonight. But I will say one positive thing here: giving Legend a rub is a good thing. Why? Simple. New stars. New stars. It may not excite the average fan, especially the casual fan who goes, who the hell is this? Call me when there's a big star on. This is what a lot of casual fans do. Especially as you start to get deeper into the year and we start talking about Rumble, and then those people who don't watch wrestling come back in and go, okay, where's the big stars? Where's The Rock? Is Austin going to be here? Where's Taker? You have those people who still do that, and they have no time or patience for any new stars to care about who they are, what their backstory is, where they're from. They just are just so stuck on gotta see a big star or I don't care. So those of us that are here for the story, here for the journey, and many of you have been watching, Legend before I even saw them come out to the main roster. You have obviously been watching longer than I have. Many of you that watch NXT, or you watch Level Up, or you watch TNA, or some of the independents, obviously have a much more solid foundation as to who and what that person is before they even get to WWE's developmental team and then eventually the main roster. So yeah, a lot of people are ahead of me, but I, at least when they get to the main roster and I get them on television, I like to see the evolution. It may not be exciting. It may not get your blood flowing. It may not be like, oh my God, but stars take time to build, and there's no quick way to do it. There's no magic wand to wave. It's a process. And I am appreciative of the process. Does it always work? No. Is there sometimes that it's just a waste of months or years? Yeah, it happens. But it's at least fun to watch. So I know I just completely went off the rails with Legend getting a quick rub here, but it's a more important point. But there's a positive. All right. We had Cody come out, and he asked, what if Harley Race had fought Bruno Sammartino, or if Nick Bockwinkel had faced Ric Flair in a champion versus champion match? And he asked, what if Goldberg faced Steve Austin? Okay. Is he really trying to equate him and Gunther to Bruno, or to Steve Austin, or to Harley Race, or to Ric Flair? Did he just do that? Cody, no. You're nowhere near there. So while your job is to sell the event and get eyeballs on the product, sometimes you can overdo it a little bit, and I think this was one of those cases. Okay, Goldberg and Steve Austin. Let me just say, sure, just based on look alone is the only reason many of us would want to see that, and in some respects we did at WrestleMania 20. being there in person to see Goldberg get a stunner was a lot of fun, and Brock Lesnar get a stunner. Another match that also unfortunately never happened in Brock Lesnar versus Stone Cold Steve Austin. But my point about all this being that is he's really trying to equate himself and Gunther to these two. No, sorry. I mean, Gunther maybe a little bit more. I think Gunther in some ways has more respect than Cody does. But moving on. He said that when matches like that came to fruition, the outcome was not always satisfactory and had a clever out, if you will. God, Cody, can you just speak like a person? Just speak like a freaking person. Speak like you don't have a promo in your head. You know what I mean? At least make it look like you don't have these words you've thought of ahead of time. Even though you probably should, don't deliver it that way. Now, I've never cut a promo in my entire life. What do I know? But here's what I do know. I've been watching wrestling long enough to know when something feels contrived and something doesn't. And Mr. got us, clever, if you will, and my little suits. Okay, I'll stop. Okay, so Cody said he wasn't going to disparage Gunther. We had the definitive, or we had the Crown Jewel Championship in the ring. All right, and Cody said most men are terrified of Gunther. Cody said he isn't, but even if he was, he would not bet against him. And he spoke about how he took the John Cena schedule when he came back. He said he added to it, and he said he paid the price, but he knows he's not done doing that. When he said he took the John Cena schedule, I'm like, what part of his career are you talking about? Right? I mean, that may not have been the best analogy, because I'm thinking to myself, what do you mean you took the John Cena schedule? So like you were trying to only be here like twice a year? What part of his life, what a part of his career exactly are you talking about, Cody? So he should have probably specified that, but now I get it. I know what he's saying. Obviously John Cena being the workhorse that he was in the late 2000s into the mid 2010s. So Cody cited his daughter as the reason he wants to win the championship. He invited Gunther to appear on SmackDown next week, as I said. So he's got a daughter, everybody. He wants to win the championship for his daughter. Is his daughter not proud of her dad already? I mean, I don't know how old's Cody's daughter. I would guess a couple of years old. Can't be super old, right? But say she's old enough to even understand this concept. I'm pretty sure if she says to her dad, listen, I know you won the main event of WrestleMania 40. The company said that you are the face of the new era, and you beat a champion that was holding the belt for nearly 4 years. I know you did all that on top of sharing the ring with The Rock, on top of sharing the ring with John Cena, on top of sharing the ring with The Undertaker. But hey, listen, Dad, you know what would make me really proud? If you won that Crown Jewel Championship. That to me, Dad, would really make my heart melt. I mean, oh my gosh. Now I know he said his daughter's the reason for him to win the belt. His daughter doesn't have any real say, but I'm being a jerk is what I'm doing. All right. So we have Orton entering Nick Aldis's dressing room after Owens did his little in-car promo and said he needs to get his hands on Kevin Owens at Crown Jewel. Aldis apologized and said it's not something he can do right now. And Aldis said that's not what he wants. It's not that what he wants, it's that he can't. Orton got fired up and said he's not asking permission. Aldis told Orton that the decision came from upstairs, and Orton said he guesses he knows who he needs to talk to. What the hell is he talking about? What? So if Nick Aldis isn't there to make matches, and usually very obvious ones at that, then who the F is it? What? That's by definition Nick Aldis's job, Adam Pearce's job. Sure, to get control of your show and and make sure that the viewing experience is as good as it can be and all that right in Fantasyland. But if you're not there to make a match for a PLE, which happens, by the way, all the time? What? Also, I would actually accept this answer if this was something that was unusual or high risk for the company, meaning you had a star coming out of retirement and Randy Orton wanted to fight him, right? Where, okay, it's a little bit high risk for the company. Let me talk with my superiors, right? That would make sense. But both Orton and Owens are healthy, still unbelievably in their prime, and have had matches, dozens of matches in the last few months. So what the hell are you talking about? Whatever. I mean, I guess he in real life means, hey, I got to check with Paul Levesque here. Is this in the creative guys? Okay, cool. Yeah, your match is on. Weird. Not just a strange little thing there. Okay, moving on. Motor City Machine Guns, Alex Shelley and Chris Sabin, took on Los Garza, which is Angel and Berto, with Elektra Lopez, who also took on A-Town Down Under in a triple threat qualifier for a shot at the tag team titles. Really fun match here. I enjoyed this. You know, I haven't seen a whole lot of Motor City Machine Guns with Alex and Chris. They are, to say well-oiled is an insult almost. They look the part of a well-oiled tag team. They fit well together. Their maneuvers are smooth. I've got nothing bad to say about these two yet, of course, but I really don't. I think they're a fresh team for a division that constantly needs help in the tag team division for both men and women. The renaming of Los Garza with Angel and Berto is good, even though it's the same faces. Renaming it's good. A-Town Down Under, you could probably do without them at this point. Many expected them to break up about 6 months ago. It still hasn't happened. And I'm suspecting that the reason A-Town Down Under and we have the Street Profits, as I mentioned about 10 minutes ago, not breaking up yet is because they simply need depth in the tag team division, especially if they're going to have this tournament. So maybe after this tournament's complete and they're no longer needed, they can move on and split. I just, you know, you just look at these teams, some of these tag teams, and you're like, you're so bored with them. And it sounds so disrespectful and so juvenile and so elementary to say, and just, oh, that's such a lazy analysis. But tell me there's a better word for some of these teams. And the reason is they haven't done anything with them for months. Many of them. And their character development, even at the time that they were consistently on television, wasn't exactly the most engaging. So there's just no other better word to describe it than just I'm bored when I see some of these teams. And not every match is going to hit. Matches are certainly going to bore people, that some people and others not, right? But until WWE ever decides to have a fundamental shift in their philosophy of promoting tag team wrestling at the highest level, I think this is going to be a constant cycle here. So, but congratulations to Motor City Machine Guns. They won here. And they will face DIY next week. So you have a hell of a wrestling match on next week for SmackDown. You have, of course, Cody Rhodes and Gunther coming face to face again. It's gonna be a good night there. All right. So we have then Nia Jax and Candice LeRae with Indy Hartwell taking on Naomi and Bayley. This match was 7.5 minutes with Nia Jax and Candice beating Naomi and Bayley. The reason is that Naomi and Bayley cleared the ring. Naomi dove on a Jax. Bayley tried to do the same to LeRae, got caught with a shot from the floor, and then Bayley regrouped, avoided LeRae, but Hartwell shoved Bayley into the ring post while LeRae was distracted, and then hit a springboard moonsault on Bayley and got the victory. And that's it. I mean, Bayley. We should do a case study on Bayley. I don't know what to make of it. I don't know what to make of Bayley's descent. And I say descent, it's kind of a strong word. If you're still on television being used in matches longer than, 5 minutes, you're not in any danger of losing your job. But to say that Bayley's character has been, I guess, forgotten or confusing at times is an understatement. And with somebody like Bayley, who doesn't even really get to talk that much anymore, which really hurts her because she is a very good promo, she's living also kind of on yesteryear's glory. She's living on her name. She's not really thriving on who she is now. She's living on who she was. Because who she is now is confusing. She's still a baby face. She's got, kind of a new haircut every now and then. No more Bayley buddies. She doesn't get to cut promos, but she's still good in the ring. She doesn't win a whole lot of matches, but she's still Bayley. She was champion for a little while, then she lost it. Very confusing. Just, I don't know how to feel about her. It's about a little bit of indifference, which is not a good place to be. I don't know what the long-term plan is for Bayley, if there is one. But we have Nia Jackson, Candice LeRae win. So, alrighty. So, we have Andrade and Carmelo have a little scuffle. And all right, so we have a special referee being added to an Andrade Carmelo Hayes match. LA Knight comes in. He's going to be the special referee. That'll be a lot of fun. So at the end here, we had Roman Reigns come out and he said, "I acknowledge you," to Solo. And he said, "There, I acknowledge you. Does that make you feel better?" So Solo said that wasn't good enough. And he said he needed Reigns to acknowledge him as his tribal chief. The fans booed. And Solo said that he needs Roman to acknowledge him as the tribal chief or else. And Roman said, "Or else what?" And then Solo snapped his fingers. Jacob Fatu comes out, Tama Tonga Tangaloa, and they beat down Roman. They carried Jimmy from the back, who was obviously beaten up beforehand. And it's a continuation of they need Jey, they need Jey, they need Jey, they need Jey. That's all this is. It's good. It's what you need. It's what it should be. And that's what we're getting here. It's the exact story that needs to be told. Is Jimmy, Jey, then Sammy, then the wise man. That's, I think, what we're then in that order going to get. All right. Quick little rundown of Raw, and then I'll get to the Undertaker Batista situation, which is a bit of a contentious one, to say the very least, over on X and everywhere else that you can talk with other wrestling fans. So, let's see here. We had Bianca and Jade defend their tag titles, and they ended up retaining them in about 10 minutes. We had Braun Breaker, who came in face-to-face with Jey. And we had War Raiders come back, which is a nice, again, I love that name. They took on Otis and Akira Tozawa in a tournament shot here, or a tournament style match for a shot at the World Tag Team titles. And we have, let's see here, Cody come out, cut another promo with Gunther. They work, again, their promos are fine with each other. Breaker and Kingston. Breaker beats Kingston in 8 minutes and 20 seconds. R-Truth beats The Miz in a minute. Rhea Ripley and Tiffany Stratton for the women's world. I'm sorry. Tiffany Stratton and Rhea Ripley versus the women's world champion Liv Morgan and Raquel Rodriguez. Rhea and Tiffany won here in 8 minutes and 40 seconds. Nia Jax came in. Why she's there, we don't know. Other than the fact that, okay, she's facing Rhea Ripley. Fine. Or if that's the road we're going, okay. Like, there goes the brand split again. But again, overall, I think the Raw was okay to good. Nothing crazy big, nothing that you're going into this week's Raw, you're going to really remember. And so let's get to the contentious side of things here with Undertaker and Batista. Okay, so earlier in the week, we had Dave Batista, who came out in support of Kamala Harris. All right, so again, guys, if you're political stuff is only being talked about here because it got shoved into wrestling. I'm not going out and pulling it into wrestling. It's here. Okay. So if you're wondering, I don't want to hear about politics. Well, it's going all over the place. All right. And I'm not going to get into the details of my views politically. You can hear that on my other show of The War on Truth. Just objectively what the hell's going on here. All right. So I want to preface that before I start getting into politics on a wrestling podcast. But Dave Bautista came out in a promo video that he cut here he was sparring in a boxing ring, and he's talking about how Donald Trump isn't a real man, and that he's weak, right? Physically weak. Essentially, it was a few minutes. There's some other stuff said in there, but Dave Bautista obviously is and has made it very clear that he is a Democrat voting blue guy, right? And you'd imagine there's some reasons for that. Now, whether he actually believes any of these things or he's doing it to appease to his Hollywood elites, we don't know. Maybe he does truly believe this stuff, but I think he also knows it benefits his career because where he gets his money and who feeds him, as they say, don't bite the hand that feeds you. So the hands that are feeding him are very much on the left side of the aisle, on the Democrat side. So whether or not he actually believes this stuff, I don't know. Could he actually articulate an argument or debate anybody? My guess is probably not. He just does what he feels he should do to preserve himself. A lot of this, I think, is self-preservation. Okay. But what Dave Bautista put out did get a lot of reaction, both positive and negative, from fans. A lot. Even a lot of the prominent, the prominent guys in wrestling journalism, like Sean Ross Sapp from Fightful, who is very much on the side of Bautista. Others as well, but it also did divide the wrestling fans, and many of them felt that Dave Bautista is on the wrong side of things, and many people have come after Dave Bautista and how he's a very feminine man and all these things, which I think is it's a fair assessment. But then not to be outdone, The Undertaker with Glenn Jacobs, Kane, comes out and makes the statement with Donald Trump with him in a video that he will be interviewing Donald Trump later this week. I don't know what day he's releasing the interview. I don't know if it's going to be live. I'm still trying to figure out all the details. But so Donald Trump is going to be on the Undertaker podcast. Presumably Undertaker supports Donald Trump. I think he does. Same with Glenn Jacobs. I know Kane, who is the mayor of Knox County, absolutely is a Republican, very much conservative value guy. Okay. And I think Undertaker, Mark Calloway, is following suit. Okay. So now you have the opposite come out, right? Like now everybody that loved Batista is crapping on Taker, and all the ones that loved, or hated Batista now love the Undertaker. All right. And so it's just completely created a rift in pro wrestling. Now, see what happens when you insert politics into pro wrestling. This is why it should never, ever be brought into the television product, ever. And how a lot of talent, I think what they're learning here, both legends and new, are learning, okay, you can put your political views out there, but be prepared, because no matter what you say, half the country will hate you. You could be a conservative, you can be a Democrat, and half the country will hate you. It's a lesson. It's a lesson for even those grizzly vets that this is the most contentious time in American history when it comes to political, to political agendas. Especially, we're only 2 weeks away from an election. It is a hell of a time to get involved in politics. And, I don't know what this means for Undertaker. At this point, I'm sure he doesn't give a damn. Same with Batista, right? I'm sure both of them could, they kind of expected the response that they got. Maybe not to the volume that they did and the passion that they did. Both hate and love on both sides. But they got it. And here's what I just want to say. Okay? Here's what I want to say, because some people aren't getting the point. My views aside, I think everyone knows where I stand on it, but I'm just not going to talk about that here. This isn't the platform for that. Objectively, standing back, not putting my views into any of this as far as my political, or my conservative or Democrat, whatever, liberal, whatever it is. Here's what I would like to say is however you viewed that individual, both Dave Bautista and The Undertaker, prior to seeing clearly where they fall on the political spectrum, that should not change their actual contributions to professional wrestling. Now, it may change your opinion of them personally. It may change you and how you view them from a human being standpoint. Unfortunately, everything, politics to a lot of people are their religion. In the absence of a lot of godless people, I think, again, it is a lot of people's religion. People take politics way more seriously than they ever used to. It's torn families apart. It's torn friendships apart. It's tearing fans apart. And you'll see it. Just jump on Twitter. You don't believe me? Just go do a search. It's tearing people limb from limb. So that said, with all of the rhetoric turned up, the volume turned up, the heat turned up, we're 2 weeks away from an election. These two have made their stances very clear. What I would say is, again, if you're somebody that suddenly is diminishing everything that person, Dave Bautista or The Undertaker, have accomplished in their careers simply because of their political views, you're a fraud. You are a fraudulent fan. Because to tell me that their political views somehow retroactively have affected the accomplishments of body of work that they have brought to the table to professional wrestling is nonsense. What you're telling me really is, and I can sift through it, what you're really saying is, I totally disagree with everything they say. I'm on the opposite side of the aisle, and I don't like them anymore. They make me angry. That's essentially what you're saying. It's just a bad way of putting it. But if there's anybody out there, and there are people that seem to be out there that are talking about how this person's political views, particularly The Undertaker, you're hearing a lot of it, more so than Batista, that his views, a lot of people are saying that it completely destroys everything that he's brought to the wrestling industry, and that it's destroyed his career. Are you kidding me? First of all, again, these two things are separate. You cannot ever negate or detract from anything that Mark Calloway has brought to the wrestling industry for 30 years. He may not agree with everything you agree with. He may make your tummy hurt because he agrees with everything you don't politically. But you cannot tell me, unless you're going to admit you're a fraudulent fan. And this goes for anybody criticizing Dave Bautista too. All right? I'm not just, propping up The Undertaker here and defending The Undertaker. I'm also defending Dave Bautista's contributions. That if you are saying that this has somehow affected their wrestling career, you're a fraud. Okay? Again, even in Dave Bautista's case, while some of you may not agree with everything he said and completely on the opposite side of everything he said and all the rest, I would defend Dave Bautista too. Both of them. All right? Both of them and their contributions to the wrestling industry are locked in, no matter what they do from here on out. So the other thing I would say, unless they, and I don't mean this in a funny way, I mean this in a dead serious way. Like if they do something extreme like Chris Benoit, then of course they'll be erased from wrestling forever, and they should be. That's just the way it goes and should go. I'm not trying to make a joke about that at all. It's serious. But my point though is, I've also seen people on X talk about how, since they totally agree with Dave Bautista and disagree with everything The Undertaker said, or on what he represents anyway, that Dave Bautista has accomplished more in his career and means more to wrestling than The Undertaker ever did. I've seen some people, it's not the majority of people, but I've seen some people say that. Is there anyone on this earth, I'm being dead ass, that actually believes that Dave Bautista has contributed more to the wrestling industry, business, WWE, than The Undertaker? If you actually believe that, I'm inviting you to email me. Please email me at WWE podcast mailbag at WWEpodcast.com. Please. I want your actual justification on that. I don't think there can't be one. But I'm having people make this argument. There is no argument to be made here. All right? There's none. But if you want to try to make one, I will absolutely listen to you. And if you want to write it out, I will, or call us, of course. You want the number to our voicemail. That's available in our show notes of every mailbag we do every single Friday. So, I don't know. This is just creating a lot of controversy online. A lot of hatred. A lot of people uniting behind each other, but you see anybody on the opposing side and you immediately vilify them. And what it's gotten to, and I'm, again, still talking in the context of wrestling, but a little bit broader here. The political conversations have gotten to a point, especially on Twitter, but even in real life with people who have been longtime friends or family members, what it's done, people believe so deeply in what their side represents that if someone is on the opposite side of the aisle, you have an innate feeling to dehumanize them. As if everything they believe is evil. It's Hitler-like. It's Nazi, right? Which is the most, I mean, how many times do you hear that all of a sudden? Like, everything the other side does is, it's equivalent to Hitler. It's the most preposterous thing in analogy that anyone could make. But it unfortunately has created such a divide. And you're seeing it. If you're a wrestling fan this week, you saw firsthand. You may not have experienced that yet, but you did this week. If you haven't, I would say steer clear of it. Unless you want to get deep into it, it can get sticky and muddy. And once you get sucked in, it's hard to get out. Because sometimes you very strongly believe what Dave Bautista believes with Kamala Harris and her agenda or her values more, and what she represents on the left, or you may agree with the Undertaker and what he believes on the right with Donald Trump. So whatever the case is, it has completely divided. There is so much division here, and it's just wild. So that's the most objective way that I can cover this story. I may do a little bit more, of course, opinionated on my War on Truth, where I actually, and you guys can probably guess where I land, but I have a little bit more justification on where I land and some responses to people and all that. But I'll save that for my other show, again, called The War on Truth. I'll save this for as much just wrestling as I can, but once again, politics were brought to my doorstep with wrestling, so I'm going to talk about it. And it was a blow up on Twitter, so I can't not talk about it. All right, so there. That is as objective as I can be about what is going on. Just wild stuff, and I'll end it there. If you guys want to follow me on Twitter, you can do that at wrestling_audio. You can also go ad-free at patreon.com/WWE podcast. You can do that really anytime. We do have, by the way, I want to give a shout out, Dominic L. Welcome to the WWE podcast family. And also on Apple Podcasts. I'm still waiting on Apple. If those of you who have come over from Apple or can still hear me from the subscriber side of Apple, I have put in a help ticket with Apple. I'm waiting on their response to see what the hell is going on with the feed over there for subscribers, not for the free feed. The free feed seems fine. I don't know what is going on with the subscriber side of things, but it's with Apple. So hang tight, and hopefully we'll get things resolved. But all right, I'll be back on Tuesday for your Raw review, and I thank you so much. You guys take care.
Thanks for listening to the WWE Podcast. Don't forget to subscribe on your favorite podcast app so you don't miss a show, or head to WWEpodcast.com. And for all of these shows ad-free, head over to patreon.com/WWE Podcast. Until then, we'll see you next time.